Welcome to Blade HQ, everybody. Today is December 23rd, 2024. We are staring down the barrel of Christmas right now, but we are still here with new knives, and we're very excited to be here. We'll start off with some knife news real quick. Spyderco has brought back 15V on the Para 3 Lightweight. Here we have the stonewashed finished, big brown bear heat treated 15V on this blade, and 15V is incredible. 15% vanadium, which forms these huge, incredibly hard carbides that thanks to powder metallurgy, we can get down to a much smaller, refined size. We still have decent toughness here, but off the charts edge retention, and a nice brown handle here. Very exciting that they are still working with this. 15V is something that is a very big challenge for companies to work with, and I just love that Spyderco is still doing it. And hopefully we will see more in the future. Today's episode is sponsored by Cancept Knives. They are one of our favorite companies here simply because of how prolific they are. They make a lot of knives, and of how diverse they are in their sizing and capabilities. So sometimes you get a nice everyday carry, small thing, sometimes you get a beefy fixed blade and everything in between. This one I think is one of the more well-balanced and one of the most classic models from Cancept. This is the Kryo. Kim Ning design, very nice ergonomics, very well apportioned, and we're actually giving this one away in the live today. So if you want to win a knife in a giveaway, just join us in the live every Monday at noon Mountain Standard and get in on that giveaway. This is a pretty awesome one. We're also doing this one today. This is the Loki, and this might be my favorite Cancept model. Its handle, sort of a coffin shape, just fits the hand really nice. S35VN on the blade, nice Piercy style Wharncliffe blade. It's such a nice thing. Thank you so much, Cancept, for joining us in the knife world, and thank you for sponsoring this video. Now, without further ado, let's talk new knives, starting with this guy. This is a new exclusive Mordax we have from ProTech. So we have a CPM S45VN blade, this honeycomb aluminum handle, and a mother of pearl button. Now, S45VN is not the Magna Cut that typically comes here. However, I might prefer it here because on a blade of this size, you don't need the extra toughness you're getting from Magna Cut because you're not like batoning or prying, but that S45VN will give you a little more in the edge retention department. I think it's a really great thing, and I love that Blade HQ isn't just so on board with the whole branding thing that we don't forget that steel performance is a big thing. And I think this is a great, dare I say, upgrade for the Mordax. Love it. Very slick action, bearings in the pivot, ferrum forged design. ProTech does a really good job with these. But this is not the only exclusive Mordax we have. We also have this sort of new texture, also S45VN on the operator version. So we have no lasered logos, and we have a green tritium vial in the button. Very fun, very tactical, very sleek, low profile, but still very premium. Very nicely done, ProTech. If you want the regular version, that'll go for $290, and then it's $340 if you want the operator. Next up, from my buddy Keanu Alfaro and Bestech, we have the Liger. And I was talking to him earlier today about this knife and where it got its name, and he says, this thing feels like a claw. And look how much of an angle forward this blade has. It's a D2 blade, and I tell people a lot of the time, they're like, I want a karambit. And I'm like, if you want a karambit for like everyday carry, you want a Wharncliffe like this because it's gonna be a lot easier to sharpen because you have an inward curve. You're gonna get quite a bit more blade width, so it's gonna have a bit more strength there, but you're still gonna have a really nice slashing, almost claw-like appearance. And I love that not only does Keanu know that, but he leans into it. And he said he picked Liger because one of his favorite movies from growing up was Napoleon Dynamite, and Napoleon's favorite animal is a liger. And I love it. And I love Keanu's designs. This handle feels so him. Like, compared to the Bestech Good Boy, I think it's just a Bestech Good Boy. That's, like, it looks very similar, but it has a few of the different vibes, but it just fits the hand great. And I'll tell you, Keanu's design language is so... It lends itself so well to so many different people's preferences, use cases, some of the most versatile designs out there. And I love that we have a really nice, almost tactical Wharncliffe now. And these ones will go for a really great price too. $59.90, getting you a crossbar lock, D2 blade steel, full steel liners. It's a really great knife. Well done, Keanu Alfaro, and thank you so much for designing another great knife for us. Next up, we have the Tenable Kryo. So Tenable is sort of the budget subsidiary of Cancept, who's our sponsor today. In fact, this has a very similar handle to the Kryo. Now we do have a crossbar lock here, and sometimes with the crossbar lock and a flipper, you end up with a flipper that's kind of living on a very tiny string. But instead of that, we just went for the stronger thumb stud, and that's sort of the meta. You see a lot of thumb studs combined with crossbar locks. Aluminum handle on this guy, and I believe a D2 blade. No, 14C28N, so a nice stainless on that guy. This one goes for $56.89. And if you want the micarta and black coated version, this one's a little bit cheaper at $55.89. These are fun, nice hard users, and in that same Kim Ning fashion, a very comfortable handle. And I love that Tenable is here to bring us some of our favorite concept designs, but at a bit more of an affordable price point. Next up, Spyderco. We have a restock of this guy, the Manix 2 Lightweight Salt. So CPM Magna Cut on the blade, giving you incredible toughness, incredible edge retention, and the reason it's here, off the charts corrosion resistance, as well as this nice yellow FRN handle. Other than that, it's the same Manix we know and love. One of the best folders ever made, in my opinion. And I think it's absurd how young Eric Glesser was. He was probably 22 or 23 when he designed this, and it has stood the test of time. And my goodness, is that man a gifted knife designer. It helps when you were raised in the Spyderco factory. But also, we have these Techno 3, hotly anticipated. This one was announced at Blade Show 2024. We have a CTS XHP blade, and look at how much milling and faceting there is on this titanium. It gives it a nice rounded feel, a very ergonomic handle, but also it looks high-tech and space age. And then a very subtle flipper that also works really nicely. This is a very premium knife. I remember when the Techno 2 was sort of the go-to Spyderco titanium frame lock. A lot of people logically compared it to the Chris Reeve Sebenza, the small Sebenza. And once we have this one, I think if I had to choose between the two, I think I might choose Techno 3 over small Sebenza. I'm sure you're all gonna destroy me in the comments, but it's just, it has the same feel of ultra premium. We've got a nice slick flipper, and it's real good. Spyderco does a really good job. Also, $300 even, so not a terrible price for that amount of quality as well. Next up, Nate Summers. Some of you Forged and Fire fans may know him, but he has some custom Petit Chef knives for us. And in typical Nate Summers fashion, we have a very nicely burned-in, bedded, hidden tang in this beautiful wooden handle. And instead of the 1095 we're used to, these ones are AEBL. So it's gonna be a nice stainless, it's gonna be a little easier and a little more forgiving with acidic foods, but nice and thin, and probably Nate Summers, I will say, Nate Summers is the best edge grinder I know to date. Like, his edges are so thin and so hilariously sharp. Perfect for the kitchen. And honestly, this one's kind of been scaring me being here on the lines. I'm actually gonna set it to the side so it doesn't hurt me. But honestly, a really great price as well. Made in the USA, by hand, by Nate Summers, 150 bucks. We don't have a ton of those because, once again, made by hand. So I'd go on those soon if you're interested, but Nate Summers does a really good job. Next up, we have 3 knives from Petrified Fish, starting with one that I think is kind of a call to home, is the Trilobite. So Trilobites are a sea creature that once lived, and now the only place you can find them is petrified. So they're like petrified fish? I'll see myself out. But this one's pretty great. It has, I forget the blade steel, 14C28N once again, and a nice Warncliffe reverse Tanto blade. It's gonna be great for dragging against table cuts and that sort of thing. A G10 handle with this milling here that not only gives you a little bit of grip, but it also kind of has the same vibe as the Trilobites. If you don't know what a Trilobite looks like, go look it up. They're kind of fun little creatures, and if you're ever in Utah, go find yourself a fossil. This is a great little everyday carry knife for, I think it lends itself well to most everyday carry cuts, which are packaging, against the table sorts of things like food. It's a great EDC knife for a great price. These go for $44.09 with a nice slick button lock action. Next up from Petrified Fish, we have the Ripple. And this one's a bit bigger and slimmer with a bit of a with a bit of a Tanto blade and a compound grind. So we have a hollow down here and then a flat near the point. This one feels a little more self-defense tactical to me. It's got a thumb stud opener and a front flipper and a little thing in the back. So a bunch of different ways to open this. Whatever your training lends itself to, it'll work well there. A big handle, almost, it's like if you have gloves or something, it's gonna be nice and easy to grab, and a nice tactical colorway, but it's gonna be nice and slick in your pocket. So you carry an extra mag or a multi-tool or a med kit or whatever have you in your pocket. This will allow you to have enough space to run it as well. Very exciting indeed from Petrified Fish. These will go for $51.29. And lastly is one of the most interesting knives I've seen. This is the Petrified Fish Eel. And this one is like half kitchen, half fishing knife. So first of all, let's talk about this sheath. So the handle here is milled G10 wrapped around the steel, and then the sheath is also G10 wrapped around the steel. And then you kind of rock the blade out like that, and you have this knife with this big ring in the middle. And the ring makes it feel very ulu-like. So the ulu is a traditional Alaskan blade style that honestly I wish we saw more of, because it allows you to put all of your pressure behind the edge instead of when you're way back here on a knife and you're like letting your wrists bend as you're cutting. This one, all of that pressure is going straight on the edge. It's a lot more ergonomic, especially if you might have carpal tunnel or something like that. But then a very nice deep belly for all your slicing cuts, maybe be it fish or whatever. Great food knife, but then with this whole package, it feels really solid. It would slip easily into a pack, and it'd be a great thing to just take fishing or whatever you're doing. Very interesting knife, and a very good price too, $71.09 for this guy. And one that, once you pick it up, you're like, that is something else. And that's one of my favorite things about Petrified Fish, is they're not afraid to make something that feels like something else. They're willing to get off the beaten path, if you will. Anyway, that's all the new knives we have on the table today, but we have a ton more over at BladeHQ.com, so go check them out over there. If you like knife content like this, please subscribe to Blade HQ, and we will see you all next time.